Welcome to this Elden Ring video. Today we're getting to the Fist of Fury build. This guide right here is going to get you for melee. There's a lot of variations that you can do with this, so I'm going to explain that as well. But the one that I have right now with this Ash of War has been a lot of fun, doing some really wild stuff with it and taking care of a couple bosses as well. It's been a fun ride, enjoying it. It does really solid damage in every way, and you can modify it to do even better things as you go. So lock in. Just so you guys know, the channel has two giveaways happening right now. You can go to the description. It's two video games: Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater and Assassin's Creed Shadows. So go check that out right now. Pretty easy. Just comment, be subscribed, and I'll announce the winner in one of the videos. All right, with that out of the way, you're watching some footage of when I first tested this thing and started seeing what it can do with the way I want it to be. Of course, there's going to be optimizations. I'm still running through the DLC and working through that so you can get better versions. But I would recommend 150 and above for the setup I have now, but you can do it earlier on depending on your attributes, which we'll talk about in a second. But as you can see here, the Asher War is going to get you in the air. You're going to do some very good aerial attacks, and it is top tier when it comes to damage output, especially with the Talisman and things like that. You just really rip through normal enemies, makes it feel like you got Elden Ring on easy, which, wow. And so I'm not that overpowered. I don't have all of the fragments yet. So when you're watching this, it's kind of me just starting and learning this new play style with this melee focused setup. So it's been a fun ride to test it and just to see what it could do. And I want to be able to provide y'all with that breakdown. There's multiple attacks. It has a string of 11 hits on the light attack when you two-hand it. And then on the heavy, it does a very good 1-2 to start off, especially when you're running. It is so good, or when you're jumping. Both of those times, it really does some good stuff that I personally love. And then we have the Asher War, which I put on, and I absolutely love this Asher War. It basically causes this aerial attack that you can see right there. I just was practicing and testing it, the timing of that, and I absolutely love it. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys just a quick rundown of what this is. Okay, so here we are, the Fist of Fury officially here. This build, again, just look at certain information. We're gonna look at the one and the only DryLeaf arts, aka hand-to-hand combat. This is a new one for the DLC. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I do have a video on how to get it. It'll be in the description. It's pretty basic, straightforward. You guys don't have to do no rocket science, but you do have to beat a specific somebody. That's all we're gonna say, and he's going to reward you this after. And so it's pretty simple. I have the guide on how to do that, and you should be fine. But when you get it, there's different Asher War on it, which is a palm attack. I'm not that interested in it, so I've been switching it up, and actually, I got a lot of variations to talk about when it comes to that. I'll showcase it in a minute. But what I want to just talk about here is you look at the scaling, it's all on strength for the moment, but you can switch that and put it on other things as well. And we'll get into those kind of details in a second as we go forward. By the way, if you didn't know, I have both an incantation and a sorcery because this build is going to be special. Let me go ahead and get in here and give you guys the full rundown on what this bad boy can do. So, first and foremost, like I told you, this is going to be literally 10 strikes. You count them all with the combo. When you're running, you do a heavy. Absolutely love it, but with the single hand, it's not so good. When you put two hands on, you're going to see there's a double hit. Super good. It's just spectacular. And so you'll be able to do a lot of good things with that. And then the Asher War, as you can see, it gets me in the air and gets me going. So you're going to have a good time with this. Absolutely. And to talk about a variation, which is probably something you should look into. You can use some spells. Okay, first of all, the build runs off of strength, dexterity, and intelligence. And this right here, you're gonna see me just kind of testing a couple of items and seeing how much damage I can put out with these things while I'm setting this up. And of course, this is very early on in the game, so these are just regular enemies. But the point behind this is that you do have fists and you can get overwhelmed. So if you back off and then you throw some glintstones and try to freeze people, and the reason I like using freeze for this build, it's one of the elements, but basically you want to try to stagger them, make them flinch, and then you're going to be able to actually dominate because of that. So be smart and throw something that's going to throw the enemy off. And so I use different incantations and sorcery just to test it. And again, this is all just testing, but the principle is there for you to do that. And now I want to get into the actual build, show you guys the setup, and get you guys rocking with me. Okay, here we go. So, Fist of Fury build. Vigor, these are all minimum requirements, and you can actually lower some of these as well. I'll explain as we go. First and foremost, the big king of them all, one and the only, is Vigor. Vigor at 50, you have to have it because this DLC does get difficult, but at 50, you should be very comfortable and not having to worry too much. And that's personally what I recommend for every build to start off. Of course, later on, you can put it higher. Sitting at 80 would be amazing, and you can probably get through the whole game easily with that. Mind and endurance, we want to talk about both, and they're both at 30, and there's a reason for that. This thing will take up a lot of your mind and endurance. Okay, so you're going to be spamming attacks, you're going to be consistently striking, and you want to be able to not have to consistently refill with your flags. Okay, that's just something personal for me. I like to be comfortable, quality of life, and enjoy myself. I'm not here to worry about having to refill over and over. So 30 is where it's at. Then when it comes to strength, strength is very important for this build if you want it to be. If you want to focus on dexterity, go for it. You don't have to split everything on this. And it also depends on the setup that you're doing because your Asher War, remember, can change the scaling. But at the moment, I have it at 35 for strength, and then I have 40 for dexterity. These two are your physical damage, and this weapon does physical damage for the most part. You're always going to be in somebody's face unless you're casting the spells, which we'll talk about in a second. But one or the other, okay? Focus on dexterity, in my opinion, because it's flexible as well, because it's going to help you with other elements that you need for the build, okay? So that's critical. And then now I do want to get into one important things for you guys to know about, which is intelligence and faith, all right? These two, I'm sorry about that. Intelligence alone is the only one you want to focus on because this weapon does, for some reason, scale with that if you're putting on an Asher War that has a specific element like magic or ice. And the reason I think this is important and the reason I am going to mid-max, pretty much going to max this build and put intelligence very high is because I want versatility, guys. And while you can do a lot of cool melee, the thing is you can get overwhelmed and it can get very difficult. As I showcased a little bit of doing ranged attacks to enemies, and I want to do that again so that you guys can see more or less how this all unfolds as we go. So casting a little bit of spells and things like that is going to help us big time. And we're going to start off from the top. The spells, all you really need is that one glintstone spell, but I like throwing different things in there and just switching it up. But with intelligence at 25 or higher, you can put out some damage and you can do some different things. Like for example, these glintstones. Just if I spammed it, I would basically kill the guy. And so this is the type of thing you want to do to get yourself together. That way you'll be able to spam these attacks and use them to be in range as far as keep your distance. If there's a lot of enemies, attack a couple with your range attacks and then get back into the martial arts, which is the main focus of this build. And that's pretty much the rundown on some of that. I'm going to show you the rest of the build so we can get into it. And we're diving deep down the rabbit hole. So, as I talked about, the using a staff and a seal together. Why? Because you're light and you're going light. Now, this is the armor that I'm using at the moment. Remember, you're going to switch this. I beat the third main boss with this. Okay. But the truth is that there's harder bosses out there. For some reason, some of the optional bosses are harder, as usual, than the main boss. But you can switch to armor. I put on Elden Lord because it looked cool. Because it looked like what I wanted for this build. I wanted him to be kind of like a goated melee king, kung fu master. And then now we're gonna get into the main course, which is the most essential for these builds. The blue dance charm. Okay, you're gonna have low armor, so that's going to allow you to put on this, which is gonna give you more attack power, which is very much important. Secondly, you're going to put the rotten wing sword insignia, and this is going to let you get successive hits and do extra damage. Super critical in my opinion. Then you have extra skill attack power with this beautiful shard of Alexandria. And last but not least, the Godfrey icon is going to enhance your spells and your skills. Okay, you're going to do spells? Sure. At some point, you'll be leveling up intelligence. But for now, you're going to use it for skills. And then when you have both, you'll be overpowered and you'll be going crazy. And there's more where that came from, because we're going to go into the main location for you to know what's going on here. For the flats, we're going with magic specifically. Like I said, you're going to be throwing a lot of magic in different ways. And then stamina, those are the two that I'm using at the moment. Of course, you can switch this depending on what you're doing in your playstyle. And then for the rune, I'm using God Break because he throws all your attributes higher, and you should be good to go after that. That's pretty much it. And to talk about the Ash of War, guys, I actually have been fooling around with a couple. I like some of these. I'm actually going to find a couple more that I don't think I have in some of the new ones. And we can update this video in the future when we min-max it and give you guys the amazing DryLeaf art. Okay. So we'll see what's going on. This has been a fun build for me. Probably one of my favorites just because I love martial arts and it's useful. So make sure you go ahead and put it to use, get your job done, and work on what you like, how you like to do it, and then get into it. If you have any tips or tricks or some items that I haven't found yet that work well with this and enhancements, feel free to leave them in the comments. This is just your template for you to get started and see where you go. If you need information on where to find these items, I should have some of that on my channel or my live streams. Now go ahead and make sure you enter that giveaway because you can get some free games all by just commenting. And I'll see you in the comments. By the way, a new video is popping up. It should be how to get all the weapons, new weapons in this game, and then also a bunch of guides on how to get strong early on. All right. See you there. Peace.